What do we know about David Crowley? David Crowley was accused of a double murder-suicide. He was accused of murdering his wife, his daughter, and then committing suicide. The bodies of David, Komel, and Raniya Crowley were found on January 17, 2015. Within 24 hours, David Crowley was being accused of a double murder-suicide. Those accusations are baseless. They were baseless then, and they are baseless now. What do we know about David Crowley? What do we know about Komel Crowley? Komel and her sister were born on a United States military base in Saudi Arabia. Once her father left his position with the U.S. military, Detective Jim Gummert reported, they returned to live in Pakistan where her mother and father were originally born. The Alam family stayed in Pakistan until Komel was 17 years old and then moved to Texas. Komel then met David while attending Baylor University, a private Christian university in Waco, Texas. David grew up in Owatonna, Minnesota. David and Mitch Heil became best friends in 2000 while attending Owatonna High School. In 2004, David and Mitch joined the United States Army together on June 22nd. David's place of entry into active duty is listed as Fort Snelling in Minnesota. According to Mitch Heil, both he and David were sent to Fort Banning in Georgia for Army basic training. After completing basic combat training, David was sent to Germany. David Crowley served in the United States Army for a total of 5 years, 2 months, and 22 days, beginning on January 22, 2004, and ending on September 13, 2009. 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days of service were listed under the Foreign Service section of his Release from Active Duty Form, DD Form 214. David's home of record at the time of entry into service was his dad's home in Owatonna, and he was released from service at Fort Hood Army Base in Texas. According to Mitchell Heil, Detective Tommy Booth reported, David was first deployed to Iraq. David was in Iraq from November 2, 2005 to November 11, 2006. While deployed in Iraq, Detective Booth continued, David had gone through a traumatic incident where an IED had blown up the Humvee that he was in. When the IED had blown up the Humvee, David had to save one of his teammates and lost several members of his team while over in Iraq. Islam is a religion of peace, David wrote in a Facebook group on February 7, 2007. But where's the peace in trying to kill anyone who isn't a Muslim? They are not about love, they're about victory. Is Allah insisting that a good Muslim should murder people who are different? They have been brought up in a place where sectarian violence is simply a way of life, and blindly follow their leaders into a violent religious frenzy. They fight for a God that is not behind what they do. But even more so, they fight for key political leaders who use the masses for their own ends, just as you guys are saying our government is doing to us. But if these statements are true, at least ours is geared towards peace and charity, not violence without end. David has been to at least 11 countries. Dude, I've killed people in service of my homeland, David wrote during a Facebook group discussion on February 6, 2007, and have been to more countries than you have fingers. As a soldier on the ground, David wrote in the group discussion on February 3, 2007, I have seen enormous resources put into the betterment of the general Iraq populace, be it school installations or medical functions or whatever. After David's tour in Iraq, he was sent to Texas, where he hoped to wait out his term of service and leave the Army. That's when David met Komel. 6 weeks after they met, David and Komel were married. The paperwork was filed on May 14, 2008, and the marriage was official 8 days later on May 22, 2008. Instead of being allowed to leave the Army, David was stop-lossed, involuntary extension of service, and shipped off to Afghanistan from June 26, 2008 to June 11, 2009. According to David's records, he was retained in service 449 days for the convenience of the government per 10 USC 12305. Komel lived with her parents while David was in Afghanistan. Komel graduated from Baylor University with a degree of Bachelor of Science in Family and Consumer Sciences on May 15, 2009. 2 months after David was released from active service, Raniya Crowley was born. The daughter of David and Komel came into the world at 6:38 p.m. on August 6, 2009. Raniya weighed 5 pounds 11 ounces, measuring 8 centimeters in length. David, Komel, and Raniya Crowley moved to Minnesota shortly after David left the military. David Crowley and Mitch Heil then enrolled in the Minnesota School of Business together in 2009. The two men also started 2 businesses in 2009, Hothead Productions and Bullet Exchange. My work with Hothead Productions, David wrote on his LinkedIn profile, included writer, director, post-production supervisor, composer, branding, marketing, client relations, pre-production, storyboard artist, visual effects artist, logo design animation, title animation, social media campaign manager, location shoots, camera operation, family headshot model event photographer, and website designer content manager. We also tackled professional photography, doing events, family headshot production, and model and fashion. Lots of graphic artwork in this arena as well. David also explained the origins of Bullet Exchange. My partner Mitch Heil and I began Bullet Exchange to service the Minneapolis film community's potential for realistically dressed and equipped military components in film. We provided authentic props and costuming services, as well as serving as prop master, armorer, range cadre, stunt choreographer, actor trainer, and military consultant for concept and script. I also was in charge of the company's marketing, client relations, and media and branding. The Bullet Exchange remains the only resource in the Midwest for authentic police and military equipment rentals specifically tailored for film and theater. David volunteered at the Progeria Research Foundation as a language translator from October of 2009 until May of 2010. David assisted with translations of Western research documents to Urdu script for clinical use in Karachi. Komel Crowley purchased a Springfield XD-40 caliber handgun, serial number US 163310, on July 25, 2009. The purchase was made via check in the amount of $508.76 at the Gun Zone in Dallas, Texas. The same gun was later sold by David Crowley on June 17, 2012 to someone named David Stark. On November 8, 2009, David and Komel completed the permit to carry a handgun course with Eric D. Packizer. Mr. Packizer is a certified firearms instructor for Quorum Security Inc. in Minnesota. Mr. Packizer was also featured in David Crowley's documentary, Gray State: The Rise.